Sit back and relax while you listen to Train Kickers podcast. I'm Dave, and along with my co-hosts Stan and Steve, we're going to take you all around the world of miniature wargaming. On tonight's episode, this one is just Stan and myself. Steve has currently been a little bit under the weather, as well as he doesn't currently play the game that we're going to talk about. We're going to be talking about Conquest, the last argument of Kings specifically. And tonight what we're going to be talking about, you'll have noticed before we put out essentially why you should play this game, a very brief and high-level overview of its factions, and all of that. What we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to be discussing, for those who have been playing the game, the differences that have come up now with the second edition. So this is Monday, the 23rd. This was the day of the second edition release. So we're going to be doing some comparison related to the 1.5.1 rules to the new 2.0 rules. We do want to preface by saying that, we're going to do our best to make sure we're as accurate as possible. We've read through it multiple times. We have both their documents as well as our own to look through. But let's also face they might change something. They just released the rules today. In a week, they could change something. So be aware this is rather time sensitive to when. And they did put out an FAQ day one, but they might FAQ some things later. So interpretations may change based off of what we see and what later they say. Luckily, so far, when I read through their FAQ, everything fit what I would have thought. One thing's a little convoluted, but everything else fit what I thought. But that could change, and that's always possible. So we're just going to go through and we're going to give an outline of the distinctions, both the things that they've said and the other things that we've noticed. And now, on to the show. All right. I haven't edited these videos yet, so I don't know the actual amount of time difference. But for our purposes, it's been 1 minute.
Yeah. So I'm still painting Kabanda.
Yep.
Almost done, though.
Good.
This thing looks pretty sick for a model I've spent a lot of time on.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of proud of this. I'm not going to lie.
See, I'm envious. You're able to sit and model while we do this, since I'm the one who sets the recording and writes timestamps and all of that. I never actually get to touch
also,
painting.
I stopped doing it. My ability to multitask comes from the fact that I teach middle school, to be quite honest.
True. Yeah. Oh no, but with the big thing is I can't paint because I also then need to halfway through stop and put down timestamps and change different things. So it always just ends up being too much. I don't even bother. Luckily, I have a giant monitor because I have the thing filled up with 4 different screens right now.
I do not have multi-screen.
No, you just got your laptop. But I'm sorry, yeah, my monitor, I haven't measured. I don't know how wide it is. It's like a 36-inch wide monitor or something.
Jesus fuck.
Yeah, you haven't seen my monitor? Yeah, it's two full-size monitors put together. I have an ultra wide.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of
best
sexy.
investment I ever made. It was expensive. Don't get me wrong.
I was going to say, no shit.
No, they're expensive. Good ultra wides are expensive, but even now for work related stuff, I can have what I want on one side, something like that. For this, we have their document, our document that we wrote, all of that. I can have them both up while still being able to monitor the actual recording. So
that's actually kind of sweet, though. I'm not gonna lie, that's actually pretty damn cool.
All right, so as we said, our goal tonight is we want to go through and talk about the updates that they've done for Conquest, the last argument of Kings, going from 1.5.1 to 2.0. As we said in the intro, we're going to talk about what they said. We're going to talk about the things, because some of the stuff they said, hey, yeah, some stuff was cleaned up, and that's kind of how they left it. We want to go into a little bit more detail for things that we've seen. Bit of comparison. We'll talk about what we like, if there's anything that we don't like. Spoiler, I don't think there's much we don't like, but we'll see if something comes up.
I mean, really quick initial thoughts. Yeah. Damn, they did a pretty damn good job. Okay, yes. The playtesters, you could kind of tell that. Again, I'm not insulting GW playtesters here, but when you compare Liber Imperium or Liber Mechanicum and the mistakes made there to this seems more like a labor of love. But hey, maybe that's just me.
What I will say is yes, although we haven't seen model rules yet.
Very true.
So okay, we do have to wait on that. So,
disclaimer.
As of recording, we do not have model rules. Once we have model rules, we'll start talking about the factions and some differences and what we notice. But for the moment, we don't have model rules, which means
very true.
There could absolutely be some issues that arise. But the hope is that they're doing this as a little bit more of a, not necessarily a living rule set, but a little bit closer. I know at least for spells and all, if you buy the fourth, I forget the terms they use, but essentially the card packs, it's the 4th round of those. all the spells are actually QR codes on them. So they give you the name, but it's a QR code.
Oh, that's
So that
nice.
way, yeah, so that way you can scan it, pull up the spell, but if they change it, if something's a problem, they need to change it, you don't have the wrong spell written down. You can see what the correct one is. I personally am a big fan of that. So it's at
I think
least
anyone's a big fan of
no.
that.
There are people who don't like that, and I understand why.
Wait,
There's some people who no, it's very simple. They don't
I'm
want to
curious.
be
Wait,
that to play the game. I need the phone sitting next to me.
oh, they don't like. Okay, it's not that they don't like the update. They don't like the
No,
QR code situation.
yeah, they don't
Okay,
like it's a QR. I can't look up the thing, but for those people, you can print it. You can absolutely
wait.
print
Out
the
of stupid
stuff.
curiosity,
Yeah.
how do they want the free updates then?
Well, it depends. Some people, when you talk to people like that, it depends. Some would say if you're careful with what you do, you shouldn't have to do many updates. Some will say, well, we want updates, but maybe card packs, or I get this card pack and you're charging me this money. And essentially you're charging me to give me, there's other stuff in the pack, I'll say, but you're charging
Okay,
me to
that
give
makes
me
sense.
a
Okay,
code
okay,
to
I
go
see your
look.
argument. Okay,
Yeah, I can absolutely see it. My thought is I would always rather something get live updates and my phone be part of my thing, or I print out a sheet from an army builder rather than old static rules that still need to be changed and either aren't, and now it's a feel bad, or are, and now I'm trying to replace it. I would always prefer dynamic. We're in a very modern world. Use dynamic.
mm-hmm.
So like I said, we're going to talk a bit about both of these. We're going to start a little bit more with their sheet, and then when the time comes, we'll go into the one that we wrote. Um, so we'll start with just their overall outline. Um, as they said, this is an somewhat overhaul of the rules. It's not a huge change. In a lot of ways, they tried to streamline and unify things. So especially when you look at special rules, in the past, because one thing I did is I sat down and I looked at every special rule in the old book, every special rule in the new book,
You're
looked
insane.
for changes. This is the stuff they don't talk about. Look for
Yeah.
changes, look for rules that were added, look for rules that are missing, look for word changes. Some of those rules are the same, but they cleaned up the wording or they changed the wording, and a lot of it is for more uh, make it more uniform. If a spot works for the whole regimen, they say that they don't necessarily. There were some other ways they used to word it, so they've kind of cleaned that up. They do talk about minor points readjustments, which we haven't seen yet. And we'll go into the way infantry works now. And they talk about that's why. Um, Commonly used undefined terms are introduced now appropriately. So they changed both some of the words they use, they introduced them correctly, and they've removed some words that just didn't really show up. And they really did a great job adding more examples, more diagrams, more explanations to make it a lot clearer. One of the biggest things in a war game, say like this, is you get a lot of weird fringe cases. And a lot of times the rules don't very well explain them or don't show them. And what I like about this is in my mind earlier, I was reading back through, because what I did first is I reread the entire rules. Then I went and looked at what they said their changes were. So that way I had kind of both in my mind at the same moment. And then I looked back at old rules. And there's odd cases of, pushing ahead if you get moved away and all. And I like that they made sure they put in plenty of diagrams. Some of those were there before. Maybe that's not a good example because maybe all of those were. But there does seem to be more now that covers different ideas very well. So do you want to cover how infantry stands work now?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay.
So, infantry stands. Wait, hold on. Pause real quick.
Yeah.
Am I on the right
Like
page?
actual pause?
Maybe.
Okay.
When you say infantry stands, am I stupid? Hold
It's
on.
on
Am
their
I on the right?
sheet. It's on their TLDR.
Yeah, I'm on the TL.
The
Oh my god, it's the Jesus Christ. It's the second bullet
As my
point.
mother would say, if it was a snake, it would have bit you.
Oh my god. I'm looking like it says system wide. Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right.
It's underneath that one.
Let's try this again. Infantry stands. So this is actually a really cool change, and I
Yes.
like this a lot. And there was actually debate on the forums on the Discord about
Mhm.
something, which I'll get to in a moment. So infantry stands are now basically they operate like brute cavalry and monsters. So basically, what this means is that their characteristics are no longer per model, but they're actually per stand. And this is amazing because oh god, I think I was talking about this with Josh, where like it was kind of stupid because like 4 men-at-arms, for example, basically had this almost similar stats to 4 Wardroom blooded, and it made no sense. Like, oh, they were both 4 wounds, but this guy's thicker. Now stands can have different. Now you can have a stand with 5 attacks and 6 wounds, rather than just 4 and 8. So it allows you more variation. Which also means you don't have to literally remove individual models. The stand will take the wounds, and once you lose all the wounds, the stand goes away. Stupid question, Dave,
Yes.
because I can't see if I see it here. My mind was kind of foggy about this.
That's okay.
Every wound you take, obviously, then it reduces the stand, or is it no? The stand is then it goes from all of it to none of it.
So for wording now, from what we've seen from they talk about, it is all or nothing. You get the stand, and when you lose your last wound, the stand is gone.
Interesting.
Yes.
I wonder if that's in the rule
That
book.
could
Is that in the
no, it just talks about the stand will have an attack characteristic. That is the characteristic for the stand. That could change in the future, but at the moment, that is how it is worded now.
That's fine by me.
We might see it different with, say, some crazy monster, but for everything they say, no, your stand has a set characteristic. When the stand is on the board, that's what you got.
Got it. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I got that correct because I didn't want to say the wrong.
Yeah.
But I do like this. It gives you a lot of variation between now models. It doesn't have to be 4 and 8. It can be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Fury can now just get +1 attack, which is it was for the stand anyway. And healing. Healing was a major problem, in my opinion.
It can be if you're good at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I played against I played against 2 healing armies. It was not fun. I should say it wasn't fun. It was just it was difficult.
Yeah.
It was difficult. There's no nicer way to put that. But yeah, no. So now it's only you heal a certain part as you healed half. Anyway, point is, I like this. I like this a lot. This is a good choice. This is a good change. Thank you.
Yeah. To make sure it's clear what happens for healing, if you want to heal a stand back, the old rule used to be you want to bring a stand back, heal a single model. But that single model had rules. Every model had rules. The rule now is to bring a stand back, you have to heal at least half of its hit points, rounded up. So if it has 4 wounds, you need to be able to heal 2 wounds to bring the stand back. If you can't do at least that much, you get nothing. And any spillover, if it will go to another thing, is just lost. I like it. I think that is a very good and useful rule. I do like the change. I think the way they do infantry stands, one, if something's 4 wounds, I still might pop off models. Maybe not. I'll see how much it annoys me.
I'm still doing it actually. So
well, you have to see. It might turn out your dwarfs might all be like 5 wounds or something like that, just to make you hate it.
Oh no, I wouldn't mind that. That'd be thick dwarves. No, so little side note. This is what I was going to talk about before. Sorry, I didn't want to mean to cut you off.
It's okay.
I wanted
go for it.
to mention something. I really, really hope that Parabellum comes out and says that you can put 3 models on the stand.
They specifically say you can't.
And 4. I know.
Now, here's the thing. Okay, they're not going to do that. It's very simple why they won't. One, they specifically call out in the rules, because we had this discussion. They call out in the rules that it is exactly 4 models on an infantry stand, 1 for a brute, 1 for a monster. Here's the other thing. Let's say they let you do less. Then they sell less. I could 3D print bases. That's easy. I could find bases or get them built, or there's probably an Etsy shop that sells like really cool bases. Or you can actually buy their special bases. They actually sell them from Parabellum Games. Which means if I could put less, that means the same box I get, I'm getting more stands out now. Which means that I buy less, and they're a miniatures company. I can't fault them for wanting to make sure that they make a profit. To me, that's the reason why they wouldn't do it. Side note,
I hate the way that Dweg rank and file. It is
I agree. It's tough.
Like, I thought Old Dominion was bad, but like these guys, God damn.
If I could go back in time and do some design work on this game, I would make the bases like, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch bigger in both directions.
Yep.
You do that, you could space the circles a little more, or they're 38 mil. I'd make them like, say, 35 or something like that, and just fit a little nicer. But unfortunately, you're going to kind of be stuck. All right, so I'll go through impact hits. That's the next thing that they talk about, and then we'll kind of talk about some of the things that we have. Impact hits, so it's no longer related to your attacks characteristic. It used to be half your attacks characteristic, and there were other special rules that um, unstoppable charge and stuff like that, or other rules that up that number, or you can impact if you're a certain type of creature, or if you have another rule like say throwing weapons and all of that. There was like 5 different ways to consider if you had impacts. um, they remove that. Now, if you have impact hits, it's just going to say impact X. And X is how many impact hits you get per stand. They specifically call it the Fallen Divinity. Is it gets impact hits now because they don't have to say separately as throwing weapons. It just gets impact. Um, Support in impact interactions, they say, is a lot more clear. I had to read through this several times, and this is how I've read it, and I believe this is true. I'm not 100% on the way that they worded this. They say that unengaged contribute at the normal amount equal, or essentially at the normal amount to impact hits. To me, that says the unengaged just add the impact as well, which seems a little weird. And maybe that's just me through thinking previous editions. But the way that works to me is your whole unit gets their impact hits. My guess is what we're going to see. To me, the impact hits are a reasonably smaller number. But the fact that you've divorced attacks from impact hits means you could have a lot of attacks and few impact, or you could be, say, like a heavy cavalry charge, where the reason you hurt people is because of your impact. So I do like that. I'm a big fan of the changes. I'm a big fan of any change that simplifies the rule. I'd always prefer one rule that tells me I get this,
Mm-hmm.
rather than I have to reference how it works. And do you have this other rule that says you don't really do it that way, you do it a different way? Let the difficulty of a game come from what you can do in the game, not in trying to understand the game,
No, that's
which is what I felt it was before.
I'm
All right,
wholeheartedly agree.
all right, talk about my
Wholeheartedly agree.
shooting. Talk about what happens when I shoot
Oh
people.
my god! So this is another exciting one for me. So, little side note: previous edition, volley attacks essentially were per model. So I have 4 models per stand. That's 4 shots, depending on what the barrage of the model was.
True.
Now, yeah, I was gonna say could be barrage 2 each model, so it'd be 8 attacks. But whatever. Point is, that's how it was. Now, no, it's just barrage X is the stand. So I'll get to the other bullet points in a second, but I first of all just love this. This makes it stupid easy. You could look at the barrage of the stand. Done. It's easy. It's stupid. Like it makes it easier. I don't have to count the models on the stand. Anything
Mhm.
that kind of stops me from doing like it's short. It's only 5 seconds to count the models, but that's 5 seconds over a game. Blah blah blah. It's just the point is it just makes it easier, right?
Or if you killed a model, if you had to start pulling a model, I got to
Exactly.
remember that spot is missing a model or two. There's extra
Exactly.
checks you have to
It's
do.
just extra checks. This removes extra checks. Now, firing over half range gets interesting too, because before it was you could only fire half your shots. Now it's just you just fire your shots. So I'll use dwarves for example. There are no rules, by the way, at this point for dwarves,
Yep.
but I'm just going to use their old rules. So, for example, each stand got 4 shots, right? Because each model got 4 shots. Each stand got 4 shots. Now at 24 inches, each stand gets 4 shots. There's no halving the amount of shots. What now? People might say, "Oh no, but what about if you're within half range?" Well, what happens is now when you're in half range, you just add +1 to the barrage. So if it's 4 shots at 24 inches, it's 5 shots at 12 inches.
Hmm.
Very simple, very easy. It's like
Yeah.
cannot get easier than that kind of
Yeah.
nonsense.
The big thing is long range no longer obscures.
Yeah,
That's why you have Jushatsu as obscuring. That's no longer a thing. And actually, they rechanged a lot of how obscuring even works, and we'll
yeah.
talk about that in a second. Um, so, how much did you read through the changes to line of sight?
Not at all. I kind of skipped that one pretty heftily. I'll be
Okay,
honest.
so line of sight is rather different. The way it used to work when you were doing line of sight for volleying, line of sight in general, but let's say for volleying, you used to look middle to middles and things like
Yep.
that, and way you measure ranges. Range is measured closest to closest. That's fine. The way it is done now, and essentially it was the idea you can make a thin line from a middle to a middle. Can you see them? You check the range if you're too far, all of that. What they do now for line of sight, which is much cleaner, um, they essentially being obscured has been removed except through obscuring terrain. So you can decide that let's say it's a forest, you call it obscuring terrain, which means if you shoot through it in any way, they don't do a kind of rule like they used to have where if you're close enough to the edge, if any part of your base, if your base is going through entirely, boom, you're obscured. Half shots. That's fine. What happens now is you look at going for obstructed. So if you try to connect any part of your stand to one of the enemy stands, so you pick any spot you want, if you can't do that without going through a blocking type terrain, through other units that you're not bigger than, then you're obstructed. That stand doesn't shoot. There is no more obscuring unless it's a special terrain feature. So if you're taller than a unit, automatically don't worry, you're not going to be obscured, anything like that, not obstructed, you're fine. If it's a terrain feature that you either see over or is not a concern to you, you're fine. So they made it a lot easier. Your unit either is allowed to shoot or it is not. And the only time you have to worry about halving your shots or doing any sort of that math is if you're going through special terrain. And that's something you're going to set with your opponents in the beginning. I really do like the way they changed the line of sight rules. I have no problem with the idea of it's like, can I see you at all? Then I'm okay. That means I'm allowed to shoot you because that simplifies it more. Middle to middle would be fine if they marked the middle on these. In A Song of Ice and Fire, we measure things from the middle for shots and all, but there's a marker on the base on the middle. On this, I don't want to have to guess, am I exactly at the middle? If it's close, hey, let me do anywhere. Cool. I can do anywhere. If I need to, I'll get a laser pointer if I think it's a big enough deal. But they really did a lot for volley, and they simplified it in, again, a nice way that works for them. Is that the end result is the same, but just cleaner and easier to understand. It's not supposed to be changing how it works, really, but it just makes it a lot nicer. So continuing with what they said, and then we'll switch over to some other things. Command models, they changed the upgrades. They just call them all officers now, just for nice consistency. Regiments now have a dedicated command stand, and if you can't take any command units, then you do not have a command stand. That command stand is where you put your leaders, standard bearers, officers, all those things go. They talk about what happens if you need more. If you need more, you might have to buy additional stands to fit them. Placement-wise, they go into the middle of the line. Spells out very cleanly that they go right to the middle. And it talks about different rules that got easier related to this. And this gives them ability to do new officer abilities and all of that. If Dan is there, because I hear him kind of moving around, he can talk
No, I'm
about
here.
magic. Okay.
No,
I hear you
I'm
rumbling.
here. It's just stupid. I know I have it. I don't know where it is.
That's
It's
all
so
right.
annoying.
Talk about magic.
Oh, the magic is actually really cool. So magic used to be wizard ability. You throw that many dice. You need the casting value to make it a success.
Attunement.
Very attunement, sorry. And then you really only need one. Now each spell requires 2 successes to be cast. And I asked on the Discord, does that mean like if I'm casting Fireball, I need 2 successes? And the answer is yes.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty big. That's a pretty big change right there. Scaling levels are readjusted, but we saw that in the rulebook.
Yep.
This is a cool one. Spellcasters no longer purchase spells. They know every spell available to them. Thank God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was super annoying when building a list and being like, wow, I really want that spell, but I don't have those 10 extra points. That kind of sucks. Shucks.
Were your wizards or priests, depending on which one you had, were they ever limited on how many spells they could buy?
No, but
Yeah.
I could only cast like one. So it was just,
Well, no, that's true.
Yeah.
You need special. You need special retinues or special rules, or I think it's actually the rule. We haven't seen the new stuff, so who knows how they might change that. But as far as I know, you were never limited with how many you could buy. You might have been forced to buy one. I know my Cares and More are forced to buy one at minimum, but you were never restricted on how much you could get. Just you had to get something, which means I really was points cost always at plus. Now they don't have to do that. My points, it bakes it in. And maybe they'll be more expensive because it's baked in. That's fine. Bake it in. It's easier.
Makes my life easier. Okay. Again, it's the whole entire point of, does this make my life easier? It does? Why, thank you.
Yeah. For the scaling levels in particular. So the old scaling was 1 to 3 bases was a 0 additional successes. Now it's 1 to 4. It used to be 4 or 5 was 1 additional success. Now it's 5 to 7. So they up the number of bases or stands that you need before you get the next level of for scaling, which is great. I mean, you need an extra success, so they made it where you don't need even more as fast as you used to.
Exactly. Like I said, I ain't gonna complain about this.
Yeah, and spells are now to end of round unless it says so. It's nice and simple. Again, it's a nice thing of clarity. When they say that is the rule, they no longer have to say it on the spell. You know that's the case unless they say otherwise. They got one last thing, and then we got some things we want to talk about. For special rules and draw events, faction specific rules are now moved to the army list. So, like I said earlier, what I did is I went through and I looked at special rules and I made a list of ones that are missing. The ones that are missing in many ways, not all of them, but a good amount of them, probably were ending up going to be faction specific rules. So now they're just on the faction page. If no one else gets it, just put it there. Certain rules are just gone. Fury is no longer there because
Which
that's a
is
faction rule.
weird. So
No, it's a
pause.
faction rule.
Okay.
Your
So I'm gonna say,
stands that would benefit before just get +1 attack per stand.
oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So, because here's essentially what it was before. Oh, your hold reg or whatever, was he the one who gave it?
Yeah, he gave
Okay.
it basically.
Your hold reg gives these guys Fury 1. Oh, okay, now I got to go look up Fury 1 is. Fury 1 is that stand gets an extra attack. Well, your hold reg just gives the stand an extra attack. I could cut out the middleman. The
I
idea is
see.
what, the special rule now is
Now is
just
a
a
special
faction
rule.
rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
faction rule. And if you're the one who has it, I don't need to say it otherwise. Same thing with throwing weapons. You don't need throwing weapons anymore because if your word says barrage, I'm allowed to shoot. Because there was, and it was weird, there was, I think, if I probably can't pull it up fast enough, but I think it was on the Fallen Divinity, where there was a case where I think maybe it was the first level because the Fallen Divinity has 3 levels. Let me look this up quickly because this I remember, and I might have just missed the rule the first time around. Yeah, so there it is. When I first looked at it, I didn't realize it could. I noticed it had a volley, and I was like volley. I'm like volley 2. It doesn't shoot. Why has it got volley? Oh, because at tier 2 it gets throwing weapons. Okay, so it's allowed to start shooting at tier 2. Little things like that where it's just a complication what was unnecessary. Is it certain rules are removed and they'll return later. So there's some of these rules that are just gone. Rebellious, resist decay, resolute, snapfire, spearhead. There's a variety of them. They're just gone. They might come back later. We don't know. They're not in this document. They're not in the rules. All right. Why don't you briefly talk about the changes to reinforcements?
Yes. Oh, another good change. Man, it's
Yeah.
so reinforcements. So I mentioned this in the previous podcast. Little side note, but essentially reinforcements used to be so turn 1 lights coming on 4 up, turn 2
Mm-hmm.
lights come on 4, medium come on 2, turn 3 lights auto, medium 4, heavy 2, turn
Yep. And so
4
on.
heavy
That
4,
that
so on
part
and so on.
hasn't
Yeah, that
changed.
was the
The
pattern.
numbers haven't changed.
But now, super stupid important is that per turn you can select one unit, allowable unit. Sorry, I got to make sure that's specific. Can't choose a heavy on turn 1. But you can now select one allowable unit to automatically make that roll to come in. That is mwah, beautiful. So many times during my games have I played that it's just I just roll too high. Dave plays me, so he knows why I'm like saying it so
Your dice
despairingly.
just too good.
Like it's just there's a joke in the store for those who don't know me. It doesn't matter what dice you give me ever in your life. Um, it's just going to roll high. It's an old joke. Um, but yeah, it kind of sucked because it was like, oh no, none of my shit comes in. Great, yay! I can't wait. Now and it sucks because it kind of incentivizes you to take small MSU units, so you could kind of spread the dice pool out. Now, however, that you can, I can take. See, my favorite thing is, so again, people don't know me, people that are playing against me. I love token dwarves. That's like my all-time favorite thing to do. Token dwarves.
You are a
It's just
token dwarf
large.
yourself.
Yes. Just okay. I just realized.
Yeah.
No, it's just I love the large blocks of stupid dwarves, and it's kind of not incentivized in the earlier editions because if you don't roll for that big block, well, it just sucks to be you. Now, if you take a nice big block of six stands of dwarves or five stands of dwarves, you could just choose that block to come in. That's it's great. I love that. That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
You
It
know?
does open up list building. You can talk about whether or not that's necessarily a good idea because obviously big block can survive more, maybe put up more damage, but it can only score one objective. Can only
Oh,
try
very
to do
true.
one
Yes,
thing.
very
Yeah.
true. But again, it gives me now the
Yeah.
option to because again, it was a big feel bad. Oh, I didn't roll this number. I guess that sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is a big feel bad.
Yeah. Anyone who's played enough has always found the game where you or your opponent rolled really well and the other side rolled really poorly.
Mm-hmm.
One of the games I played, I had like 3 medium units on 2 ups and I got 2 out of 3. The other player got like nothing that round.
Oh my
I'm
god.
I'm instantly in a better position. Even if they don't necessarily do much that turn, they can at least push up the board. I can double march,
Yeah.
get them closer, and then the following turn maybe they do something where I'm already sitting on a point. Then, um, so reinforcements was good. Broken is great.
I
This
love the
is my
broken.
favorite change.
Yes. Because if I may, before you explain it,
Yeah, now
broken
go
in the
for it.
first edition was just it didn't matter. And you
Not
can correct me
really.
if I'm wrong, but like if my draws were broken, I was like, oh, okay.
So here's what it did in the old edition. It mattered a little bit, and it mattered in very
Eh.
specific ways. So making sure to review for people when you're broken at the start of the round, see how many bases you have. If you lose at least half that, then you're broken. For the old, it was -2 on your charge, so that is something. You get no over bonus resolve for size because they still kept that bonus where if you have enough stands, you get extra resolves. And your characters at that point have to accept duels. And if they want, when they go as a draw event, they could forgo their action to do a rally instead. Um, what you found, at least say me as an old Dominion player, if my character, say someone challenges and my character is not designed to kill, I'm gonna break because I'm fine
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, exactly.
The downside is if you're broken and then you lose half the amount from that point, then you're shattered and you're gone. But if I'm at a point where I know I can get through that, I'll just break. I'll worry about it later. It's only a problem if you're going to be shattered. Short of that, it wasn't really much of a problem. Um, since you love it so much, Dan, do you want to go through what it
No, no,
is in
go
this?
ahead. I just talked about the last one. No, no, no,
Okay,
go ahead.
I want to just in case. I know
No, 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 no.
you were really really excited about it. Okay, so
No,
here's what
I
broken.
was because I do like when like broken should mean broken in my opinion. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I agree because the
Yeah.
way they word it is very strong. They talk
Yeah.
about, like I said, you have broken, so it should give you big minuses. So here is the big minuses. First, you use your unmodified resolve characteristic. So if you have
Massive.
anything that would up it in any way, you just go straight to that. Um,
Massive.
That's a nice way of them saying, without having to say, that you don't get bonuses for extra stands or anything like that. You cannot charge, not -2. You're just not allowed to charge. That makes sense. Your guys are broken.
Yeah, they're
They're on the
scared.
field. Yeah, they're scared. They're not running yet, but they're scared. They're not going to go run at a giant pack of spire monsters. You cannot heal or have any stands restored. We know healing is a big thing in this game. We don't know what healing in terms of numbers is going to look like, in terms of like how many people still be able to heal and how good those heals will be, but you're not allowed to heal. You cannot use the stands to seize objectives. Before,
Massive.
yes, before what I did,
Massive.
and I did this in a game versus Dan, he came in, he wanted to challenge my squad. I'm like, well, I'm on the objective. He's a little bit off. I got more stands. I'm taking this. Okay, I'm going to break because you're not going to kill enough of me. I'm still going to have the objective. And if they die in another turn, that's fine. I'll get the points now. You
Mhm.
don't get to take points. You cannot be inspired. You cannot bet. I'll put it this way. They say you cannot benefit from inspired. You can be inspired, but it does nothing. The character part stays the same. can't refuse a duel, and you're still allowed to action rally, although they don't call it a draw event anymore. It was a draw event when you replace. That's more of a timing issue. It might matter later. I don't see where that matters so much now. If someone in the comments wants to mention a little bit more of why they see that as a useful distinction, but there's probably going to be something that we see later. But it's probably one of the best changes because
Mm,
now it feels important.
so it's a tie for me between the reinforcement change
Mm.
and because again, the only reason the
Consistency.
yeah, exactly. It's literally it's consistency. Um, and I do like variability. Don't get me wrong, variability is fine, but variability to the point where you can lose a game is not fun.
Yeah.
So consistency is key. But this changes the game big because again, I remember that game. I was like, "Oh, you're broken, haha," and the guy still claimed that objective, and it's like, "Oh, the
Yep.
fuck is the point then?"
Yeah.
Like, does it? Because I thought it was broken. You know,
Yeah.
that's in the name. Um, but no, that's a massive change that I absolutely adore.
Yeah.
Spellcasting is also pretty good too. I do like the spellcasting.
Yeah. Um, the spell casting is nice. I like that overall. I think the broken part might overall just be my favorite, just because you've taken something that I didn't necessarily always care about before, and now you've actually made me care about it. Um, Maybe other factions feel different who have a lot of resolve characters, but as Old Dominion, I wasn't really worried about it. I was worried about for getting destroyed, perchance, but otherwise, I didn't necessarily worry about rally quite as much. Now rally is a full on action, and the other thing is they made it easier to rally overall because Terrify no longer affects the rally for what they've worded. So having it doesn't matter. You can just rally because it used to be terrifying would mean that you'd actually have to roll resolve to rally. That's not the case anymore. So everyone rallies easier, but now everyone's got to rally more. All right. Those are the sort of large sweeping changes. What we want to get into this, hopefully this won't take very long, but what we wanted to get into is talking about some of the overall smaller changes. So, like I said, what I did is I went through the 1.5 rules and the 2.0 rules, and I looked at both draw events and special rules, and looked for missing things, change things. Now they said missing things are most likely, if they're needed, going to be on their factions. So we'll talk about which ones are missing, but they're going to be where they need to be. But we'll talk about some of these distinctions, and I do have both of these pulled up. So Dan has them in front as well. So first one, if we look at draw events, it's a pretty short list. Some big changes. Biotic renewal. If you look at old biotic renewal, you roll d6, they heal that amount, and then you roll d6 for all the other regiments within 8 inches and so on. Um, that's no longer the thing. They no longer do the group heals. Your unit will heal, or your regiment will heal, and that's it. The other people do not get a heal.
Hmm.
So it's a lot smaller, a lot more selective of who actually gets the heal. Burnout. So again, this is spire changes. This is big stuff for spires. Burnout used to have an option that you could do nothing, or you could get the decay 3 with the +1 clash and +2 march. There's no more of that option to do nothing. If you have burnout, you're getting burned out. You are forced to use it. That's a big thing. Um, Double time, because I had this used against me, and to me, double time was when I first heard it, both a weird rule and a bad rule. I didn't like it. Um, have you ever experienced double time, or do you know what
I
double
have
time is?
not.
All right, so we took a brief pause there for a moment. So we were talking very quickly about double time. Here's what double time used to be. Double time was a draw event on your character card. And if you drew the character, you look at the card under it, which remember you stack your deck so you know what's under it. If that card was related to the character, so in other words, if the character's in that regiment, then the regiment activates. And if they do marches, they're allowed to do 3 marches. After they are done, then the character goes. If if the regiment the character's in was not the card under it, then you bottom deck it, then the character goes. So one, it gave you some availability of where you place something. Two, it did mean that you could do things like, hey, regiment activates, charge, attack. Now my character goes, now my character can challenge. Or I can rush forward and maybe my character does spells or something else like that. It was the first time it was explained to me. It took a little bit until I sat and read the rule myself because it sounded like the craziest thing. All double time means now is your regiment, if they do 2 marches, they get an extra march. They get a free march. They removed all the sort of character draws a card and all of that kind of weird nuance and crap.
Which, side note, still good. Side note, still
Yes,
good.
it is good, but it's less. I don't want to say breaking, but it's less
No,
confusing.
it's breaking. You are
To
correct.
an extent, it can be. It lets you do a lot more. I don't know if they intended it to do as much as it does. Fire and advance is different now entirely. It used to be another thing of draw the next command card. If it's for the active one, then the regiment acts. If it's using volley as its second action, it can take a third action, which has to be a march, and so on. Um, and then the command stand takes its turn. Fire and volley now. If you perform a volley as your second action, you get a free march. So again, they're removing that. You're looking for other cards in your deck, and then this gets to go, something else gets to go. No, nice and simple. You shoot on your second, you volley on the second, you get to move after. The things that are gone, Fury is gone as a draw event. Blake said that's going to go to the Dwayne home, I'm sure. Redress ranks is gone. Whether or not that's gone entirely or they're going to do something else, that's another one where you draw an extra card, and if it's in the regiment you're in, you do stuff. My guess is they just got rid of it. And To the Last Breath is gone as well. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure entirely who had that, but that one's gone.
Wasn't that a okay?
Do you know?
Wasn't that a hero ability that, like, if the character did not attack
Yes.
that phase,
Um,
then
no, this one was select a friendly regiment within 8 inches. They heal 3 wounds.
oh,
Yeah. It was a heal. Someone had it, but for the moment, at least it's been removed. My guess is it's going to go on the characters who are going to get it. For new, there is a new one. Murderous Volley is new. Murderous Volley says until the end of the round, if this regiment has performed a take aim action, so they're getting +1 on that volley, wounds caused to regiments within 12 as part of the regiment volley action cause morale tests. So they put in a flat rule now that if you have this draw event, that way your shooting attacks can cause morale tests. We have no idea who has it or anything like that, but we'll see once they release army lists. Did you want to talk about any of the particular special rule changes, or do you want me to do it?
the only one. I mean, I'll talk about one very specific one,
Okay.
and that's Fiend Hunters. Fiend Hunters used to be an old rule that you got rerolls against monsters, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, but if someone didn't bring a monster, congratulations, because you probably got priced for that rule as well, point costed. Now, Fiend Hunter is brutes and monsters. That's amazing. That's automatically better. I
Mm-hmm.
love that rule because if someone didn't take a monster, they definitely took a brute, and if someone didn't take brutes, they definitely took a monster. No one took all infantry.
Yeah.
So I love this change because it now gives, for example, dragon hunters, they're not just mono pose attacking the monsters. They can go against brutes as well. They go against bigger things. It gives them their ability to now have more than one option.
Yeah. So I'll go through briefly the other special rules now. I might have missed one that changed otherwise. I originally did miss the Fiend Hunter, but otherwise I went through and tried to catch all of them. So Arcing Fire now affects the whole unit. That includes characters, and they remove the part about obscured. Arcing Fire used to mention about obscured, but now range doesn't obscure you anymore, so it's unnecessary to say that. And they did specify in there for the characters. Some of these changes, especially maybe some of those I'm not going to point out, they don't need to be pointed out because they just changed the wording to make it clearer. They didn't necessarily actually change the way the rule worked. I'm trying to point out the ones that there was a definitive difference in the way it occurs. Another example is Blessed. Blessed now specifically says before you roll the dice. Before it did not. So it still gives you rerolls, but it says before you roll the dice, you use this. Counterattack spells out that it affects the characters. That was not mentioned the same way. So It does mention that here. Dauntless. In case someone doesn't know what Dauntless is, it's the fact that you can't be broken and you count as being inspired. Dauntless now spells out that characters will only get it if they themselves are dauntless. So the character doesn't automatically have it. And the other nice part that they spell out here is that when the regiment or stand, if it says it can never benefit from being inspired, this rule supersedes that. So if you have dauntless and you're told you cannot benefit from inspired, nope, you're allowed. You're inspired. You're good. Devout on a character now transfers to the unit. So it does spell out that if your character is devout, your unit counts as devout. That very well, we'll see exactly where that matters in certain spots, because again, we haven't seen the units, but that's a nice, easy change. So Glorious Charge changed quite a bit. Sorry, I'm scrolling through two different things. So Glorious Charge used to be that you get your Inspire bonus on impact rolls, and then you get Terrifying 1. You now get your impact at +1 clash, which is essentially Inspire, though they didn't use that wording. So that means if there's a way to be Inspired on impact hits, which you're not normally, it would stack. And you get Terrifying 1. So you now get both things just with a bit of a rewording. They removed one of the things they did. They changed like Inspire from calling special rules to other things. So they did a few of that. Loose formation is no impacts. So if you have loose formation, you also do not get impact hits. Half the attack with spells, counties obscured all of that for volleys, but you don't get impacts now. Before it was not mentioned. There might have just been nothing that had that, but it wasn't talked about there. Phalanx. Phalanx is the biggest change, I think. Phalanx, if we look at it, what is before? There it is. You got +1 defense against volleys made by enemies within the front arc and attacks made by enemy stands in contact in its front. So +1 to your defense if someone's hitting you in the front. Phalanx now is very different. You do get that point as 1 higher in the front arc. Sure. Furthermore, this regiment cannot benefit from the inspired special rule. So you cannot be inspired. And your maximum charge distance is always your march value +3, and you cannot occupy a garrison. That is huge. If your unit has phalanx and you charge someone, you don't get inspired. Well, you can't benefit from inspired. You technically are inspired, but you get no benefits. I know, at least for me, that affects a few units. Do any of your units have phalanx?
Nope.
Okay.
Wait.
Or any
I
of the units that you
think
normally
the
use?
old. Oh yeah, I was gonna say none of the. I think the initiates have that. The initiates being the guys with like the really cool spears, and I never use them. They're super
Yeah.
cool though. I do gotta pick them up
Yeah.
eventually.
Usually
Actually,
phalanx is for things with spears.
they
Because
have like
usually
the
spear
big.
and shield.
They're like the first rank is literally just a slab wall, and the second rank is literally just shields. It's actually pretty damn
Yeah.
cool.
Shields cannot be used if you're garrisoning a building. They still give you the +1, but you can't use them if you garrison a building. Support doesn't matter on impact hits because they talked about it separately. So they removed that line because they changed the way that they do impacts. So support doesn't show up there, but it does show up in the normal way for impacts. And one of the other big thing is terrifying doesn't hurt rally.
That was
So
pretty big.
yes, it you don't necessarily fail much because of that from the past, but it was nice that it was one thing. I made you, if you were terrifying, I made you roll for it. There's always that chance. There's a lot of them that were removed. Feral, first in, last out, forward deployment, forward operations, overcharge, rake attack, rebellious, resist decay, resolute, snapfire, spearhead,
Little
torrential
side
fire.
note.
Yeah,
Little side note about Feral.
yeah.
So Feral is a. I don't know why it's missing because that was actually pretty massive.
I think for that we're going to see it in one of two ways. One, we're going to see something on the unit that says it cannot count for reinforcement line. Or they did say that some special rules will come back once we see certain units. So they might very well bring it back, whether they call it that or something else, when it actually comes out. But currently, it's not there. Other ones are missing trample, unstoppable charge, and vantage point. Now, some of them are missing because like unstoppable charge doesn't need to be there anymore. There's some other ones that don't necessarily need to be there anymore because of the way they wrote the rules or the way they changed it. Other ones just seem to be missing now. And the question is, are they going to show up on units? Are they going to show up later? Or what's going to happen to them? But All right, in a brief, very brief, we'll close this out here. Is there anything you don't like? Is there any change you're not happy with?
No, honestly, believe it
Okay.
or not, that honestly, and my favorite one is the Fiend Hunter. I'm always a proponent of adding to units that have a single mono pose design.
Mm,
Again, having Monster Hunter was or Fiend Hunter was great, but if your opponent had no monsters, you've just paid for a unit. And again, you paid in points, right, for niche special rule that it's like in Warhammer 40,000, right? Let's say I
mm,
get hatred but against Blood Angels. Okay, if I'm not facing Blood Angels, and you definitely paid points for that. What's the point then? You know what I mean? So I
yeah.
do like the idea that now it's brutes. And listen, if someone doesn't bring brutes or bot or a bots, okay, at that point you got to be like, okay, whatever. I
Yeah.
tried at that point. But I'm always a proponent for adding to a unit essentially.
Yeah. I'm very much the same way. I'm very positive on everything I've seen. There's no change that I dislike. This is not the sort of thing that happened in Legion, where you have people loving most of it, but there's one big thing that tons of the community hate. I might release something about that and talk about that another time. But in this, yeah, I like everything that they did. I'm curious to see how it's going to work once we see the units, because that is the huge part that we're missing currently. I want to keep an eye on the Discord servers and the Facebook groups and all to see what sort of issues and discussions come out and if there's something people don't like or issues that they have with it. But overall, I don't see anything that you couldn't be positive about. I think the change from 1.5 to 2 was they weren't necessary changes, but they're all improvements or lifestyle improvement changes. If they had stayed at 1.5, I was fine with the game. I enjoyed it. But everything they did here, yeah, I'm very happier with it. Yeah. And that'll do it for us tonight. As always, we want to thank everyone who does listen or watches this, depending on if you are seeing this through a podcatcher. Again, we're available on any of them that you can find. If you find one we're not on, let me know. We also put all of this content as well as additional things out on YouTube. With the holidays being somewhat recent, there was a little bit less of the extras that we'd like, but now that we're getting into a full new year, as well as a new exciting edition of a game that a lot of us actually in our area have gotten into, we'd like to be able to do more with that. Now, for this, we're obviously said we're not going to be cutting out of our 30k content. We'll be doing a little back and forth at certain points. Steve does not currently play this game, so it might be Dan and myself, as well as some other locals around to discuss it, battle reports, all the sorts of things that we'd like to do. Now, at the time of this being released, we now do have the faction rules, and most of what we said fits. There's a few things we noticed that Feral, as we talked about, I did cut a little bit. You might notice a little bit of an awkward pause there. The reason for that awkward pause we had is because we were discussing Feral, which now the units that have it are regular. So they removed the rule, they gave them a different way to do it. It still works the same way that it always had. So, if you want to keep up with us, easiest way to do so is to subscribe on YouTube or podcatchers. YouTube definitely helps us out because that helps us get noticed. If you want to reach out to us to comment or anything like that, when we do have a Facebook, you look up Train Kickers Podcast, you'll find it. Dan is supposed to be the one curating that. I don't know if he has been as much lately, but I'll get him about doing that. We do have an email. Obviously, you can reach out to trainkickersnj@gmail.com. More than welcome to send any questions, thoughts there. We also do have a Discord open now. There'll be a link at the bottom of this video on YouTube. The links are always weird. I'm not going to put it on the for the podcatchers, but if you want to just look up there, there'll also be a link on the Facebook for that. We're hoping to see more people show up so that way we can have more fun and exciting conversations related to miniatures, other nerd stuff, whatever you got, honestly. Just about anything's game. We separated some different areas, but find an area, talk about what you like, it'll be great. So, for what we're going to go from here, the plan is to talk through the different factions, the changes that have occurred from them. We're going to try to bring on, for factions we don't know, we're going to try to bring someone on if we have someone who's willing to do so and close to us. Although we do this over Zencasters, they don't have to actually be physically close, but if we have someone, we'll bring them on. We also want to do some, at least small battle reports. We're probably going to start with TTS just because we don't want to do with unpainted models, and we're still in the process of painting the 100 models or so each that we're each doing. We'd also like to take a look at the skirmish form at some point as well. So if you play this game, just let us know that you're interested in this content. We'll keep putting it out. We're still going to have plenty of 30K content. I know we'd like to be able to get back to some Titanicus stuff and all of that. I know at least for a lot of us lately, we have an event coming up, so we've been preparing for that and a few other things we've had going on. I also plan on putting out some additional content related to board games and all, because that's something I do as well, and I've been wanting to do that for a bit. So we have lots of ideas of things we want to do. Part of it, as always, is just the time. So that's more than enough for me here at the closing thoughts. As for what the next thing's going to come out immediately, I'm not entirely sure, so keep an eye on us. It depends on who's available when and exactly what they want to record. But otherwise then, on behalf of everyone here at the show, has a good hobby and some great gaming.